Hey everybody, and welcome back to another edition here of Bass Fishing Declassified. Today we're going to give tips and advice on how to catch bass in off-colored water during the winter months. Now this is something you don't hear a lot about, but it's a really good technique under certain conditions, and we're going to go over everything you need to know about catching fish under these situations. Before we get started here, just wanted to let you guys know today's video is brought to you by Bridgeford Foods Corporation, maker of the Bridgeford Sweet Baby Ray Beef Jerky. Guys, this is the tastiest, tenderest, best beef jerky you guys will ever taste. Great boat food. I've been to the plant. I see the quality of meat they use. It's an all-American company. Everything's made here in the United States. They also provide components for our military's MREs. It's just a great company and a big supporter of bass fishing. So give it a try. You guys can get them at the checkout counters at any Walmart across the country. It's really good stuff. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about winter techniques for off-colored water. Now, winter, when you're talking about catching bass in off-colored water in the winter, a lot of it is relative to the water temperature. When you're talking about off-colored water, we're talking about that water visibility sort of in the maybe 1 to 2 foot range, maybe 1 to 2.5 foot range, which is considered sort of stained, dirty water traditionally for wintertime fishing. The first thing that you need to realize in order to catch any bass under these conditions, cranking in particular, what we're going to talk about today, is you've got to have water temperatures that are at least in the mid 40s. It helps if they're in the upper 40s. You know, 47 to say 52 degrees is what I consider ideal, which is still a typical winter temperature in a lot of the lakes across the country. So first of all, let's talk about the bait. My favorite bait is the Megabass Flap Slap. This is the sexy French pearl. The thing about colors, guys, when you're talking about cranking in dirty water, you need some type of a matte or flat finish that really glows a little bit. You can have like any type of the pearls or whites, the the French pearl, but you need some type of a flat matte finish. You're going to get a lot more bites because it's going to stand out a lot more in the water. Another thing about this, the Flap Slap, guys, this is an excellent cold water lure because it doesn't put off a lot of noise. It's got a pretty tight wobble. It's really good for those non-aggressive fish that are in cold water. One of the things I do recommend, though, you want to put some type of a suspend strip or a little bit larger hook on the Flap Slap because you want this bait to at least suspend and maybe slowly sink. You don't want to ever have it where it actually floats up. So make sure that you spend some time getting it to where at least suspends, because in the wintertime when you're fishing dirty water, the key is you got to slow your retrieve down. So what I usually do is I'll make that cast out there and I'll just begin a slow stop and go retrieve, just about like that. I'm just getting this Flap Slap, it's just sort of wiggling, just sort of slow along the water like that. Sometimes I'll stop it and I'll start it up again, but just try to keep it slow, stop and go retrieve. That's going to trigger those non-aggressive fish. Now the technique I like to use for it is I use the Megabass Whip Snake spinning rod with this. And the reason I use the Megabass spinning rod is I fish it on light line. I use 8-pound test Seagar and Vizex line, and the reason I use the lighter line in the spinning rod is that the Flap Slap, it doesn't cast real well in the wind. It sort of casts like a potato chip a little bit. So when you're making longer casts in the winter, it's necessary to throw it on a spinning rod. And the 8-pound test line will allow you to maximize the depth. So I can get this bait down into that 5-foot zone where a lot of those fish will live in the off-colored water. So just give the spinning rod a try. The Megabass XX Oroshi Whip Snake, it's a 6-foot 11-inch rod. It patches up and pairs up really well with the Flap Slap. One of the things you want to look for as far as areas is concentrate on channel banks, guys. Go back into your major creek arms, get about halfway to 2/3 of the way back. This is usually where you start running into a little bit more off-colored water, and get tight on the bank and make long casts parallel to those steep rocky banks, maybe bluffs, that type of stuff, trying to key in on that 3 to 5 foot zone. That's the depth that they're going to be in when you have water visibility between 1 to 2 feet. And that's where you're going to have a lot of those quality fish, especially in late winter when that water temperature starts to hit 50 degrees. So anyway, guys, go get you some good Flap Slaps here. This is a big fish lure, guys. I've caught a ton of really good ones on it. It's just one of my favorite cold water winter baits for off-colored water. I think it's going to put some good fish in the boat for y'all. We'll see y'all next time.
Cold and muddy water. It's something that a lot of anglers, I think, get scared of. When they see it, they want to leave and run down the lake and find that clean water. Not all anglers, because at one time that was me. I didn't like cold, muddy water. I didn't have confidence fishing cold, muddy water. But in recent years, I've had to fish cold, muddy water because where I live at. And now, man, I love it. I'm actually not scared to fish that situation. And my lure to go after in these situations, when you get them water temperatures in the 40s and it's muddy, as it was for me the week before, where I was catching fish in 43-degree water, guys, and it's stained to muddy. My lure I like to throw is a lipless crankbait. This right here is the Spro Aruka Shad. It's in the in the chartreuse and crawl pattern. For me, this pattern right here, man, it catches fish from Arkansas down into Texas, where I'm even at today. And man, this color is a good color. Really, I like a lot of the crawl patterns, but this one for me is a confidence one. Now, with throwing this lure in your cold and muddy waters, just a couple quick tidbits real quick for you guys. I'm gonna talk about just retrieving area, and I'm gonna actually have a more in-depth video on the lipless crankbait coming out on the channel. So if you so stay tuned for that if you want more information. But for me on retrieves, guys, if the water temperature is getting that mid-40s to lower, like last week it was for me in the 42, 43 degree range, okay, hey, the sweep retrieve is one that I like. Where you throw the guy out there, let it sink, you can reel and then just sweep your rod. So you're gonna take your rod from right to left and kind of carry that trap. And then after you stop it, it's gonna flutter down, okay? So another thing with that 45-degree water is real slow, okay? For me, when I get in that mid-40s to lower and mid, 46, 47 degree, you have to slow your retrieve down. And people that know me know I like to go, go, go. I'm kind of like that Energizer bunny. It's kind of hard for me just to sit still. So I try to tell myself to slow down once it's in that mid-40 range. Now, when that water temperature's in the 50s and it's cold, muddy, hey, like I said, don't be surprised. You can burn that trap and catch some fish. Now, let the fish tell you. They might want it slow that day, or they might want you to hop it up and down off the bottom, or do the stop retrieve. But when that water temperature's in that low 50-degree range, you can burn this thing, reel it a little fast, and they will eat it. On area, guys, I'm just going to talk real quick on area. This lure is an excellent lure for that 2 to 7 foot range, 2 to 11 foot. I like to target that 2 to 7 foot, and I will go deeper in the muddy water as well. But what I'm looking for is this shallow water where there's deep water nearby. Okay, now depending where you're at, if you're fishing in a lowland reservoir way back in a creek, and you have this flat section of the creek, just find the ditch, find your creek ditch. If the ditch is 7, 8 foot and your flat's 2, there you go. Look for the bends. Look for a structure, if it's grass and timber, rock, whatever. Now, if you're on your highland reservoirs, man, which I love throwing this there too. Highland reservoirs, once again, look for your shallow areas near deeper water. If you're up the river, main lake, wherever you're at, for me, rounded points is an easy target, and off the side of the rounded point where the ditches are, you have your long flat points as well. And for me, I love throwing this in timber. I'm not afraid to throw this in timber. It's known to be thrown to catch fish in grass, but for me, I've kind of figured out a way to catch fish with it in timber. So hey, like I said, I do like to use a faster gear ratio. I have the 7:2 to 1, but once again, when it gets in that low 40-degree water, hey, I got to reel slow. Okay, got to just go slow. I know the gear ratio can be a little bit just depends. I've heard a bunch of different opinions on it, but just for me, the faster one's better. Hey, on my rod though, I got a couple rods I throw these dudes on. I'm just going to share with y'all a rod that's a versatile rod. Okay, it's the Denali AttaX series. This is a 7.2 medium heavy rod. I believe it's their Tennessee Regional series, which is the Tennessee Regional. I think it's the chatterbait swim jig. Okay, so I told you I'm throwing a trap on it, right? Well, I have another rod over here that I throw a trap, but this one I'm going to share with you guys is like I said, it's a versatile rod. I don't just have a rod for this bait right here. So this Denali AttaX 7.2 medium heavy. I like a 7.2, 7.3 rod. I've thrown even these dudes on 6.9 rods. Okay, so my line, I like fluorocarbon. Okay, 14 pound is typically what I throw. If I'm fishing really clear water, I'll go a little lighter. All right, hey, appreciate you guys listening. And if you want to see, I have a Catch 15 video on the channel, and I'll put the link down in the description of actually a trip where I caught fish in muddy water with one of these dudes, okay?
Hey guys, Kyle Cordiana here. My favorite bait to throw in the winter months in muddy water, especially around here in Lake Oklahoma. Cold water, by the way. I'm talking less than 60, less than 50, sometimes less than 40, is a Booyah covert spinnerbait. So the Booyah Covert spinnerbait is a phenomenal spinnerbait, and there's got a couple cool features about it. One of them is this flared gill plate. You see how one side of the head has a flared gill on it? That's to prevent the spinnerbait from rolling over. So if you reel it too fast, the spinnerbait, the torque in the blade wants to turn the spinnerbait sideways. That little flared gill catches water and it keeps your spinnerbait running true. So that's a cool thing about the Booyah. But the main reason I love throwing a spinnerbait when it's cold is because of Colorado's blade, and it's able to displace water and it puts off that large vibration. I love throwing something with blaze orange in it. Again, I've got another option here with a little blaze orange kicker blade, but nevertheless, when it's cold outside, you want that Colorado blade. Don't throw the willow blade, Indiana blade maybe, but the Booyah Covert spinnerbait, I'm gonna go with a 1/2 ounce. I'm gonna throw something with some bright colors. I love blues, chartreuses, and I love having that blaze orange kicker blade in there. These Booyah spinnerbaits, this Covert, they have a really cool heat map feature where you can go on there at lurenet.com and you can check out the heat map, and you can click on the available water temperature and clarity of the water, and it's going to tell you which one of these spinnerbaits to throw, what size blade, what color blade. That's a 4.5. That's a really good starting size blade when it's cold. That 4.5 is a little bit bigger than a 1/4. You could go up to like an 8, which is the size of 2/4. But anyway, that's my favorite bait to throw when it's muddy, it's cold, especially here in Oklahoma, Grand Lake. This is a staple right here. You got to have a Booyah Covert spinnerbait with a Colorado blade and some blaze orange in it. Anyway, I hope that helps you guys catch more fish. We'll see you guys on the next one.